Now, large protests are taking place today over the NHS puberty blocker trial as campaigners demand the programme be halted. They argue that trusts risk lifelong harm to drugs. That's drugs risking harm to children, while Health Minister Wes Streeting maintains the study is essential to gather proper evidence. We can speak now to our chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who's down there at the protest. Catherine, over to you.
Yes, good afternoon. Well, in the last few minutes, the MPs that I'm about to talk to delivered a letter to the Department of Health worth saying that the protesters against this Pathways trial due to start in January at a cost of over 10 million to the NHS weren't able actually to stand outside the Department of Health because supporters and a whole load of pro-Palestine protesters were there. It was quite intimidating. They had to have a police escort in and very loud shouting. I was with them, really quite unpleasant, but I'm going to talk to them now about their concerns. First of all, Baroness Claire Fox, thank you so much for talking to us on GB News. This is an issue that divides opinion, but Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, says he needs the evidence. Is that really the case?
It doesn't divide opinion. Let me just challenge him on that, because the great thing about today was that I was introducing all the speakers from across all political parties. Every single representative that spoke represented a different faction. Labour, Conservative, Reform, Independent, also Lib Dem, everyone was represented. So that's the first thing. Secondly, of course, evidence should be collected. But a medical dictum is first do no harm. The idea that the only way that you can collect evidence is by experimenting on children who can't consent to this properly is a disgrace. It's going to discredit medical science. And I was delighted, therefore, that we had parents, we had lesbian and gays who make the point that disproportionately the young people that are being experimented on are indeed people who think that maybe they're not sure about their body, but if they were allowed to go through puberty, would just know that they're a lesbian. It absolutely should be called off now.
Every time you're online, your money and your identity are at risk. Scams now make up nearly 40% of all crime in the UK. That's thousands of attacks every single day. In Britain, someone has their identity stolen every 2 minutes, leaving victims with wrecked finances and years of stress. The threat is real, and you could be next. ExpressVPN is your shield against criminals. It locks down your devices, hiding your personal information and financial details from hackers, scammers, and anyone else looking to exploit you. So whether you're checking your bank, shopping, or just browsing, ExpressVPN makes you invisible to prying eyes trying to steal your money and your identity. ExpressVPN shields your data with military-grade AES 256 encryption. That's the same standard trusted by the US government to guard classified information. This is the highest level of online security you can get. So don't wait for disaster. Secure up to 14 devices at once and get powerful password protection. Real support is available 24/7 because cybercrime never sleeps. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 75% off ExpressVPN, plus 4 months extra for free. Every moment you hesitate is another moment you're exposed. Protect your money and protect your identity. Get ExpressVPN right now.
Jonathan Hinder, you are a Labour MP. This is going to cost over 10 million. Some people raising, is this a good use of NHS money that's pretty scarce at the moment?
I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be focused on the money. I wouldn't be spending money on this, but the fundamental point is that these are medically healthy children. There is absolutely nothing wrong with them, and what they need is love, support and compassion to actually accept their bodies as they are. They are primary school age in many cases that are going to be on this trial. They don't know what is happening to them. They cannot consent to this. And I think in a few years' time, when these children become adults, they will be asking, who did this to me? And it's not good enough to stand behind some small number of clinicians who do support this when many of them are against it. It's not good enough to stand behind them and say, oh, well, I'm following the evidence. as politicians, we, and I'm just a backbencher, but the government ministers have to take responsibility and say, I think this is okay. And a lot of these young people in future will be looking back and saying, who did this to me? The idea this could be state sanctioned after what happened at the Tavistock, the scandal of young people now coming out of that saying, how on earth did you do this to me? I think is shocking. So, the Health Secretary, I spoke to him about it in the House of Commons today, expressed my concerns. I know his instincts are that he's very uncomfortable about this, and I would just say to him, listen to your instincts. The vast majority of the British public do not support this. The vast majority of Labour voters do not support this. I am representing my constituents, as are all the MPs who are standing against this. The vast majority of people don't support it, so there's no democratic consent. Don't do it.
And Rosie Duffield, you were a Labour MP, you now stand as an independent. You weren't called for a question, but how many MPs and Lords have got their names on this letter? And why do you feel so strongly about this?
We've got dozens and dozens of names now. Really well-known household names have signed the letter. Many more support, but they're not quite sure yet whether they want to sign. Kemi Badenoch did a similar letter. As Claire mentioned, we've got all of the parties and non-independent MPs right the way across Parliament, and that includes the Lords. And everything these two have said is right. These are children potentially as young as 8. Who is answerable to them when they regret this in their 20s and 30s? And which clinicians is Wes Streeting listening to? Not the whistleblowers from the Tavistock, all of whom are really against this trial. And also, he says that at least one parent has to give consent. What happens to looked after children? Who makes that decision for them? And what happens in a case when 2 parents don't agree? Who's going to sort that out? The family courts?
And Sarah Pochin, you're a Reform MP. What is your message to Wes Streeting?
Well, I've just delivered it in the chamber today. I've told him this is state-sponsored child abuse. I've told him this trial doesn't need to go ahead because 2,000 children and young people have taken these drugs under the scandal that was Tavistock. That data's available. Wes Streeting could introduce statutory legislation to access that data. This trial does not need to go ahead.
Thank you. And just finally, on a different note, in Prime Minister's questions, the Prime Minister said that you would be hoping for a white Christmas, obviously in reference to the comments you made about the overrepresentation, as you see it, of black and brown people on television adverts. What is your response to his comment?
My message to the Prime Minister is to stop throwing silly comments around the chamber. Why isn't he here? Why isn't he standing up for vulnerable young children? Why is he backing human experimentation on our young kids?
Thank you. So human experimentation on our young kids, that's how these MPs and many others feel about this pathway trial, which is currently set to go ahead. Of course, there's already 2,000 people plus have had those puberty blockers in the past at Tavistock and elsewhere. Back to you in the studio.
Catherine Forster, thank you. And a great range of guests there with Baroness Fox, Jonathan Hinder, Rosie Duffield and Sarah Pochin from all different parties and none, of course. On the puberty blockers trial, a Department of Health and Social Care spokesman has told us this. Young people with gender incongruence need access to high-quality, safe and effective care. We are following the CAS review, which was clear that the evidence on care for these children is lacking and proposed this research to help provide it. Medical care must always be based on solid evidence and children's safety must come first.